cover of Fast Company, an entrepreneur is always about like that amazing CEO, and they always highlight like these heroes and these individuals and these, named people. Whereas I think what I feel is Jelly's biggest strength and will be our biggest strength going forward is that it's not owned or led by one person. It's owned and led by a team.
Welcome to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you're a creative consultant or agency owner who wants to know what the roller coaster ride really looks like to grow your business from one to many, you're in the right place. My guest and I pull back the curtains on the realities of growing and running agencies of different sizes and what it takes to build a team. And if you're anything like me, you want more than the highlight reel. You want to learn from the mistakes of others so that you can stop short of making the same mistakes. I'm your host, Audrey Joy Kwan. I spend my days as a coach and consultant to multiple 6- and 7-figure agency owners. For the last 7 years, I've been behind the scenes helping people grow, lead, and operate small but mighty agencies. Here at the Small But Mighty Agency podcast, we'll uncover what works and equally as important, what didn't work to get these business owners to where they are today. In this special episode, we speak to founder Darian Kovacs and partner Sarah Clark from Jelly Marketing and PR, an agency that serves over 80 clients. Darian has been able to focus on his zone of genius in the business by knowing what isn't his zone of genius and being open to the idea that what might be best for his business is not an agency that is owned by one person. Instead, it's owned by a team and led by a team. Enter Sarah Clark, who is now a partner and oversees processes and people at Jelly. Listen to how they make it work in this episode as partners and with their unique systems and processes. Welcome, Darian and Sarah. Before we dive in, tell us about your agency, what you do over at Jelly Digital Marketing and PR, and who's on your team.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much. Jelly Digital Marketing and PR is a full-service digital marketing agency based in Fort Langley, British Columbia. So we do everything online, everything from social media to digital ads, paid ads, public relations, SEO, website development. We do it all outside of Fort Langley. So yeah.
We have 2 people on the call today. So let's have Sarah introduce herself. And then Darian, I'm going to have you introduce yourself too.
Cool. So I'm Sarah Clark. I am the Director of Operations and Personnel at Jelly Marketing and also recently a partner.
I'm Darian Kovacs, partner at Jelly, and the occasional doodler. But I haven't had any doodles used by our clients. So sometimes I will doodle drawings, but then never been used professionally. So amateur hobby doodler.
Doodler and also a podcast host yourself, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Darian, why don't you give us a backstory of how Jelly Digital Marketing and PR started?
So 8 years ago, Jelly started with the whole idea and the premise of taking 3 disciplines. So public relations, so earned media, kind of the pitching stories to reporters, that whole world, and then digital ads. So at the time it was Google mostly. So Google AdWords and Google search ads. And then the third discipline of social media marketing, which is very new at the time. So it was managing people's Facebook pages, getting them on YouTube. And it was saying, hey, those 3 disciplines could really work really well together. They can feed into each other. They can support each other. If you're doing something on social, it affects PR. If you're doing something on PR, it affects social. And then we learned with those 3 disciplines, they also have an effect on SEO. So we added that as kind of a 4th service that we provide and support and report on. And so I started in my basement here in Fort Langley, and then eventually we moved to a storage closet in the basement of Domain 7 out in Abbotsford. And then we moved to another spot in Abbotsford where Rally Creative was based. So we were able to rent a room up there. And then we moved to Fort Langley and then to a little space that we rented. And then about a year and a bit ago, we ended up getting a permanent space that we were able to custom kind of TI out and moved in, and we've been here about a year and a bit.
Nice. Sarah, were you part of the days when Darian was in a basement and I think you said a garage?
Storage closet. Basement to a storage closet. Yeah, it was the big upgrade.
Yeah. So Sarah, were you there during those days?
Thankfully, I was not a part of Darian's basement days. I joined Jelly still within the startup days, about a year after Jelly was started. And we were in a full office at that point. It was in Abbotsford, right across the street from a Greyhound station. Those are our little humble days, but the best days. I had so much fun back then. Those startup days, anyone who has been a part of a startup, it's a special and incredible experience for sure.
Are they the best? Are they better than now?
I mean, in different ways. They were just super fun, and there weren't as many rules that we had to go by back then, right? So,
Sarah, you mentioned rules. Tell us more about the days when there were less rules.
Yeah, well, I mean, back then, obviously, in a startup, you don't have nearly as many processes as you do when you're an established business. So we've learned over the years that processes, SOPs, having very detailed spreadsheets and, a fantastic controller who helps us manage all of our finances is incredibly important. So, any startup, it's just a little bit more fun and free back then. We still have fun, obviously, Darian, you know this, but it's just different.
I feel like there's more peace. Like
100%.
Yeah. So it's more peaceful, less dynamic and hurried or reactive. Now it's almost like we can proactively know what's happening. And when a new employee comes in, or even for you and I interacting, it's like we've got these standard operating procedures. And so it's expected how we are to process things. And it's almost like, I think, how many SOPs do we have in our binder now?
Like well over 100.
Yeah, I think as you grow an agency, definitely when you come into your 7th year and you have a whole bunch of clients and a team of 20, those SOPs come into play. Before we talk about those SOPs in your business right now, Sarah, can you just take us back to those first years of the business when you had entered? How did the team look like then?
Yeah, the team, I mean, it's different in the sense that back then we had, 1 or 2 people that were considered our coordinator team, and they were the ones who were producing and executing on the work. And it really just came down to back then we were all rallying together to work outside of our job descriptions to make everything happen. So it was a lot of, we all just kind of rallied together and got everything done. But now we've grown into an organization that, we have multiple departments and multiple people in each department. So we're able to work together as a team in these little siloed departments, but also all together at once, which has been pretty cool.
I think at one point, if you think of bench strength, like at one point we had like one account manager, one person doing social, one doing digital ads, one doing PR. So if they ever were sick or the whole term of being hit by a bus, or if they win the lottery, that department was gone. Mm-hmm. And now, thankfully, if someone is sick or they're taking a week off, we've kind of got that backup and that bench strength.
Yeah. So 4 account managers now and 3 PR coordinators instead of 1. So it's much bigger.
At what point in your business did you start to see the value in having standard operating procedures?
I think it probably started when we started to bring on even more clients. Back in those startup days, we maybe had, Darian, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe 20 clients at that time, right? So now, or even say 2 years ago, we are running anywhere between like 60 to 80 clients at any given time. So when you have that many clients, and even still, as your team grows, we're now at 20 people, that you need to have those expectations and those standards in place so that everything is peaceful as it is now, as Darian said. People know what the expectations are. They know what their standards are and how they do things on a day-to-day basis.
I was gonna say, I think as an artist and as a creative, the whole purpose of being an artist and a creative is to do something new and to think differently and to buck the system and to break things and and so SOPs are against everything that's in my DNA and who I stand for and who I am. And so they were, I think you said, when did we discover the value? I think they went against what I believed in. I felt like, as a creative, but then once they were there, it was like the amazing, kind of systems and flow and ease. And even just, it allowed us to be more creative because it gave us this structure and this foundation to work within.
I think when you think of standard operating procedures, we think restriction, boundaries, no. And we struggle against that. But once they get put into place, it's amazing how we can get even more creative within the standard operating procedures and also have the confidence knowing that the team is in line and that they're working towards the same goals because they have these procedures to work with. Sarah, I'm interested. You had mentioned that you were an account manager at one point in Jelly, and then you transitioned into this operations role. How did that look like for you? Was it natural for you to transition into that role? Was it a passion of yours? What inspired that?
Yeah, it was very natural. And I'd say my entire growth at Jelly has, I think, been very organic through, day one when I actually started as a social media coordinator in the startup days. And I think, like I said earlier, back then, everything is just about working outside of your job description for the betterment of Jelly or the betterment of the business that you're in. And I think as my growth continued at Jelly, that was always something that was very consistent. When I was an account manager, I was helping out Darian with all of our sales. I was doing up all of our contracts. I was looking for opportunities to help out with interviews because I have a passion for people and a passion for helping people in their work. So I was always looking for opportunities to go outside of my job description. So yeah, I was an account manager. And when the opportunity came forward for me to step into a operations and HR position at Jelly, all of those, there was a number of things that I was already doing in my current role as an account manager on top of it to support me in this transition into this new role. So when I found myself in this new position, it felt comfortable. Still challenging, of course, because I still don't know everything and I'm still learning every single day, but I had been doing so much of what the job was in my my old position, I guess I could say, that made it for a smooth transition.
And now fast forward to this year and you are a partner at Jelly. So Darian, what motivated you to bring in a partner into the business?
Well, I can talk about Sarah specifically. It was, someone who had been a coordinator, was an account manager, was running operations. And so to have someone who, knew the company inside and out, literally, and who, in the kind of ebb and flow of Sarah's and Maya's role, where I'm, in a sense, leaning forward on the kind of growth, business development side of things, and Sarah kind of buckling down to run operations. It's such this beautiful balance. And so then to have Sarah also, she was already acting like an owner, and then to actually give her true ownership stakes, and I don't even call it stocks or whatever the term is. What do you call it? What did you buy?
You buy in
shares.
Yeah.
You didn't actually get the paper share though. Copy of that'd be cool.
I didn't. No, I can't frame that. Right?
No, like you see in the old West days. Look at my shares. Here's my shares. And
we didn't do a picture of us shaking hands or anything
either. No, but it's such a perfect team up. And I think too, I think the affirmation of like, it's so much better together, right? There's this amazing author, Henry Nouwen, that wrote this great book about leadership. And his whole model is that, leadership should be done together and decisions should be made together as a team. And again, it's very backwards to what I think so much of the world says, where it's like, cover a Fast Company and entrepreneur is always about like that amazing CEO. And they always highlight like these heroes and these individuals and these, named people. Whereas I think what I feel is Jelly's biggest strength and will be our biggest strength going forward is that it's not owned or led by one person. It's owned and led by a team. And together, we can see this grow, and together we bring different perspectives, and both of us have blind spots. Mm-hmm. I particularly have many blind spots, and to have someone beside you is really helpful.
Darian, with Sarah right now in the operations and people role, what is your role in the business right now?
Yeah, you should ask Sarah that. She's like, what does Darian actually do, Sarah? What does he do all day? So I'm trying to vet incoming clients that come in. So I'll try to vet them, and Sarah even helps with that, of course, as well. But I'll try to, take those calls or take those incoming inquiries. I've been working on developing our school. So we're much like if you've seen ER or Grey's Anatomy, they're teaching hospitals. We're a teaching agency. So we have an arm of our agency that's an academy. So I've been working on that and developing that part because I just love the teaching part of things. And then we've been, again, I'm realizing as I'm saying that Sarah's been so kind enough to also allow me, we've been able to develop Marketing News Canada, which is like a podcast and a news site to kind of talk about industry. And we've been able to add I think a lot more diversity and inclusion and different perspectives when it comes to the marketing world. And even coming at it from even geographically a Western perspective versus a Toronto perspective. So that has been very cool. And then I show up to I go to the shareholder meetings. We have a monthly financial review, and I get the joy and privilege of having to make sometimes those awkward calls where it's like we have to call the client if it's not a right fit, or call the client if I have to try to sometimes put out some fires or fix things. But again, it's great because we're doing it together and it doesn't actually feel burdensome or tiresome.
Yeah, I'd say that's one thing that I think makes us such a great partnership is our ability to kind of jump in together on a number of things and, support each other on everything. Even though I lead operations and HR, Darian leads sales and the podcast, we can jump in at any time for each other and, be a team.
When I think of how your relationship looks like in the business, I think of offense and defense. So Sarah, if you think of a sports team, right? So Sarah, you're in this defense mode because you're making sure the internal operations is going smoothly. And Darian, you're in the offense mode because you're in the marketing and sales area. And so together, you guys are this amazing team that has the perfect offense and the perfect defense to make the team work.
Pretty cool. I'm often referred to as the mama bear, so I'm very protective of our jelly jar, the people that are in it, and our little office here. So I feel like that would be a pretty accurate representation, though I do think Darian is also very defensive with Jelly as well in that play.
And I think, and maybe what's unique is that I don't feel like there's opposing forces here. So I would in a sense, I would disagree with that comment because it's like, I feel like it's more like we're standing together and carrying this load together. And there's times that Sarah just is like, she just tactically speaking, she is dealing more to day to day with the operations, and I'm tactically pushing, sales forward. But again, when either of us needs to kind of jump in and be like, hey, can you help carry this for a bit? Or can you help me with this piece? That we don't stop for a minute because it's not like, well, it's not my job description, right? I'm not, or it's not like, well, Sarah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make a burden for you, right? Or Sarah's not, or vice versa. So it's more trying to be like, hey, we're in this together. We both want to see this grow. But I think I've learned and tried to mature over the years of realizing my level of love and respect for operations has grown significantly and the need for it. And the way that the only way forward for us to grow and do great work. And I think ultimately, and Sarah touched on this and can probably touch on a lot more, is the ultimate way to show love and respect and care for staff is to give clear expectations. Like in any marriage, relationship, partnership, any of that, when you go in with clear expectations, client relationships, if expectations are really clear up front, there isn't those missed opportunities. There isn't those missed expectations.
Well, it sounds like both of you guys are in your zone of genius in your respective areas of the business. Sarah, you in the system processes and people and team, and Darian, you in sales and marketing. And I think, Darian, what you're highlighting is that they don't live in separate silos, that you are still integrated into what Sarah does, and Sarah's still integrated in what you guys do. But the beauty of it is that you get to live in your zone of genius.
Yeah. And it's fun. I don't know. I think without the systems and operations, I don't think we'd be able to do half the things we do. Or, and maybe it's a bad analogy but comparing it to if you've ever worked at McDonald's, right? The amazing thing about McDonald's, whether you love them or hate them and think they make bad or great food or, if you've ever worked there, they have these incredible systems in place so that they can be really efficient. And no matter your level of, I remember I was 14 and going through puberty and, really clumsy. Somehow I could work there because they have these systems in place that anyone at whatever level of skill they have can work at McDonald's. Not that we're saying Jelly is like McDonald's, but it's just learning those systems can allow people to go into that role and ideally kind of start, jogging more quickly than having to slowly work into the role.
I think of systems like IP or intellectual property. It's the lifeblood of every organization. It's the know-how that gets passed down, especially in a service-based business where knowledge can get lost. Passing things down so that people can be both effective and efficient in helping clients get results is what makes the business special. Sarah, I have a question for you about transitioning in partnership. What worked well for you to make the transition? And in hindsight, is there anything you would have done differently?
Yeah, I'd say, we touched on it earlier about how smooth and organic the transition was. I was constantly moving into different roles. And with that, I was being exposed to more areas of the business while I was in a previous role. So it just made it very, I don't want to say easy to transition in, but it made it a lot smoother to transition into this role. And I think one thing that I'd like to highlight is the fact that, and I think anyone can really take this into their organization, is the fact that I did work through all of those roles in the business before jumping into a larger role has given me the opportunity to really see and walk through those trenches with our team and be able to see, like, yeah, those moments are really hard. How can I support you? I've been there. This is what worked for me back then. Maybe we can see if this works for you now. In hindsight, is something that could have been done differently. I'd lean on Darian to see if he had any thoughts there. But for me, I feel like 4 years ago, Sarah would have been like, oh, let's do this quicker. Let's make this happen faster, faster, faster. But that was me being young and not really knowing the difference between what I was really hoping for and what I needed in that moment and what I thought I needed in that moment versus what Jelly really needed in that moment and what Jelly was ready for. So Darian, do you think anything could have been done differently?
Yeah, I like that reference to, I know a very popular business magazine is Fast Company, but I think, if we can operate under the premise of Slow Company, I think, it was maybe slower than everyone would have liked, but I feel like it happened, and it happened good and well and right. And, there hasn't been any awkward, like, oh, what about this? Like, we really talked through a lot of things ahead of time. So that, again, similar to expectations, Sarah coming in, it's almost like if you look at expectations like lamps, right? Is a good way to put it. It's like it brings light to kind of murky, foggy situations. And so it's like, whether it's SOPs and filling our agency with as many lamps as possible, or coming into partnership, because that, again, it's similar to a marriage or a committed relationship where you're literally tying yourself legally to someone through a corporation, through legal documentation, through a financial investment. And so if you don't know who or what or why, or you're tying yourself to someone, it can get really messy. And you hear about so many partnerships that are messy and messy breakups and ugly divorces. And so I think going into this, we went slow, but I think intentionally, because it was like, hey, let's go in with as much light as possible and illuminate this as much as possible. So coming in, really, it felt like a very casual, at the end, it felt quite casual. Sarah got her new cards. Yeah. It was really cool. It was very smooth. And it was just, and she had already been operating and acting like an owner. So maybe my encouragement to other maybe owners that are listening to this right now is, who is it in your shop and in your agency that's already acting like an owner? And maybe what stops you from bringing your operations person in as an owner? Because again, it's the best team up. I think that's possible out there.
In terms of your team right now, I'm curious to know, are you grooming anyone up into your role right now, which is the operations role, Sarah?
We always have, a couple people that assist with, SOPs and a little bit of business development here and there. But currently, I'm doing it all by myself, alongside Darian, of course. So we don't have a specific plan in motion for it, but always looking to continue to nurture our team and help them grow in the areas that they're really interested in. Absolutely.
What is working for your teams right now?
What's working for them? One thing I would say is, we are a digital marketing agency, but we are founded on the basis of a PR agency, which are typically retainer-based agencies. So what's working really well is the fact that our team members don't have the pressure of selling billable hours in their day-to-day work. They don't have Sarah and Darian looking over them and being like, hey, you need to sell 200 more hours this month because we say so. You have to push this towards our clients. Instead, we're asking our team to just do really great work for our clients that makes sense. So I think that formula that we have is making our team quite relaxed and focused on the results for our clients versus selling.
Darian, what's working for the team right now?
One little hack we did. So we use Basecamp 2 as our project management system. And so, I'll explain one of our IPs or our SOPs was we made it where all the tasks that are assigned to coordinators and account managers are given a 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if it is a 4, it's, hey, let's think about this. There's just an idea, a little blue sky. I'm gonna plant the seed. 3 is, this would be good to do when you've kind of finished all your 1s and 2s, or, mostly just your 2s. And let's look at some 3s. Really cool opportunity here. Be good to do. be a nice to have. It's like look at your to-dos as twos and threes as to-das. And so the twos are, hey, this is the due date. This needs to get done on this date. And rarely, and this is kind of what a lot of people see as like, oh, it's cool to be culturally like always in one mode, where occasionally a one would happen where it's like, hey, you need to drop everything, all your tasks, and focus on this one. So we'll see like 3 or 4 of those a week at most. But again, I think before all this, when we were running more kind of like reactionary, ones were happening all the time. And maybe we weren't even communicating ones very clearly. But now we've got a very clear system where it's a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4 for everyone. And so they're going into their week even ahead of time, looking at their base camp. You can look at base camp in the week mode and knowing what sort of week load they have.
In your agency, how do you determine who gets assigned to what project?
That's a great question, Sarah.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm curious.
Totally. Yeah. There's a few things that go into play there. First and foremost, of course, areas of expertise. So we typically have, a few verticals at Jelly that we roll with. Real estate development is a big one for us. The legal industry is a big one for us. A little bit of like family entertainment is in there as well. So if we have an account manager who is managing, the majority of our law firms, we'll probably end up giving a new law client over to that person. Another thing that comes into effect is, of course, capacity. If a person has way too many, or not way too many, but they're at their peak for the amount of clients that they have, we're not going to put an additional client on their plate. Those are the two big things for sure. Darian, you might have something else you'd add to that, but those are the big ones.
And then sometimes it's just like interest, right? I know this account manager is really into this kind of thing, right? This is a perfect fit for them, right? And again, they may be like, a little heavier on the load, or maybe, it's maybe outside of their specific vertical that they've become an expert in, but it's a really cool opportunity. Or maybe said company is based in said city where said account manager's parents live. And that'd be a nice excuse for them to visit their parents. And so again, it's still very human. It's still very involved. And so I find that most of the time though, we again, thankfully we've been able to build a system where we know what our account manager's load looks like this month. We know what it looks like for the next, 3 to 6 months. And so even as we see kind of resource allocation, we're able to actually bring in new clients and new accounts and be able to say, okay, this is the best team to be assembled for this account.
Can you share more about the resource allocation, and how do you guys track to ensure that people are not overwhelmed in their projects?
Yeah. So 2 things. First and foremost, we actually built a platform that we use internally that tracks everything for us. We use it for tracking our revenue, all of our labor allocation for the upcoming months, all of our outsourced spend. So much goes into this. It's literally our baby. So we have that, which, takes a peek at the numbers and can tell us, based on what we've sold and what we're forecasting, this is what each month is looking like from a revenue standpoint, and then also looking at every single person's capacity level. And then secondly, I am just a big fan of connecting with each and every one of our team members. I'm in constant communication with them, and it's not just a simple like, hey, how's it going? How was the weekend? It's like, no, how are you feeling? How is this project affecting you? How are you feeling about your current workload? How can I support you? What can we do to make things a little bit easier for you? And just really having that open communication so that if there is ever a time where I don't, or Darian or I don't see, based on the numbers, that, someone might be getting to their peak, our team members know that they can come to us and they can let us know that they're feeling a little bit frazzled.
But shout out to like Function Point is an amazing tool that can do that. Monday, there's so many great tools that even integrate with their accounting system. We just found that for the size of our agency at the time, they were all so robust, and it was almost like they were huge and they almost did too many things. So we had a great accounting, company taking care of our bookkeeping and accounting. So we just needed a system that allowed us to forecast. I know that Harvest has a great tool called, I actually think it's called Forecast, but we just built it actually in Excel because we also wanted to integrate with our sales pitches and our sales proposals. So we did an Excel, ran it kind of in Excel for about a couple of years, and then we just built it in SQL. So it's just a simple SQL database that allows us to manage and monitor. But again, lots of great off-the-shelf programs out there that exist, like Vancouver-based Function Point.
Capacity planning is one of those systems that a growing agency needs to get a good handle on. So thanks for sharing that, Darian. And speaking of your team, what inspires and motivates your team to be at their best?
What motivates our team? Oh, man. I think a big thing has been just feeling really happy in their workplace. And I know that sounds so like optimistic and idealistic, of course, but I really feel like when our team members come to work, they feel supported, not only by Darian and I, but also the team members that are around them. They know that they can go, they can turn left when we're all in the office together, and they can turn right, and they have someone who has their back. We're all working towards a very collective goal. I think that definitely motivates them and inspires them. I think also a lot of our team members are inspired by a lot of our clients. Many of our clients are doing a lot of really great things, especially during these times with COVID. And I think they're just excited about the work that we're doing. On top of just being excited and passionate about digital marketing, obviously it's an industry that it's always moving and growing and shaking things. So it's just a fun environment and industry to be in.
Darian?
I think Sarah got it. Sarah did great.
Yeah. Are there any processes and systems that you have in play to inspire and motivate your teams?
It's not so much a process or a system, but more so I think just a philosophy that Darian and I try to instill in the work that we do and how we lead the team. And it's really it comes down to just being very invested and, caring about the team members. So I really feel like when you're able to authentically show people that you genuinely care about how they're doing in their workplace, their personal, professional growth, how they're starting to shine in different areas and what they're bringing to the table at Jelly, as well as, how they are outside of work, caring about their family, caring about their physical and mental well-being. When you're able to really show that you care about that over, maybe some financial statement numbers or, the bottom line. Obviously, those numbers are super important because you have to keep those straight in order to support those team members. When you're able to show people that you care, that's when I really think people start to shine in their workplace and they start to shift that mentality from wanting to come to work just to pay rent. And they shifted over to, I want to come to work because I'm inspired by the people I'm around. I'm inspired by the work that I do, and I'm motivated every single day. So,
and Sarah, Sarah set up we have an education credit for people. So if they want to take courses or self-develop themselves, we got that. If they want to teach, they have an opportunity here as well. So some of our staff love the chance that they can teach, and ideally we're going to train them up to be even better teachers. And we registered ourselves as a B Corp a few years ago, which again, part of it is, you got to it's a point systems base, and you get over a certain amount of points, you can actually register and get that emblem, much like organic mangoes. We're like a B Corp agency. But one of the ways to get points is you have to put a thing in your shareholders documents that says, our bottom line, our financial goals is secondary, is tertiary to the importance of treating the world, the environment, and the people around us in a really great way. B Corp had a way better way of saying that, but essentially we are legally obliged, according to our shareholders documents, to make sure that we put people that we serve, our clients, our staff, and the environment around us above shareholder value.
For our listeners who don't know what B Corp is, can you explain what B Corp is?
Yeah, it's much like if you own a mango company and you want to get certified as organic, officially USDA organic. You have to go through a bunch of policies and procedures and evaluations and tests, and then you can get that emblem. B Corp does the same thing for businesses. If you are a business that wants to show and tell the world that you want to care for the world, care for the environment, care for people, you can go through, again, their processes and evaluations to get that emblem put on your website.
What inspired you guys to become a B Corp?
I think it was the idea of even starting a company is why even start another company? There's so many that exist already. So it was wanting to start one that, again, I saw this opportunity where those three disciplines weren't all in one shop yet. Again, it's other shops have caught up, and, other PR shops have added social to their stuff, and other digital ads agencies have added social to their shops. And so we've, there's more and more like us out there. But at the time it was, hey, we want to be unique. And the second thing I want to do is I was like, hey, I want to at least at the same time, while we're growing a business and making money and hiring staff, I want to, change the world a little bit in any small way we can. So again, we're not starting a charity or a nonprofit or a foundation, but as a corporate entity, I wanted to actually really, since we started, try to emulate that and live for that and operate like that. But I think B Corp just finally was that opportunity to actually wave that flag and put it in writing and make it a legal thingamajigger, whatever that looks like, to say that that's how we're going to operate.
It's quite a process to get B Corp certified. So congratulations to you guys. How long have you been B Corp certified?
I think we were B Corp for 2 years. Like, we kept it going, but I don't think we sent in our check though this last year to get it to become like. So it's one of those, like, I think we're now a financially lapsed B Corp. So I think it's but we've maintained the standards. But it's officially been 3 years, I think. Yeah. In our first year, it was quite cool. We actually got Rookie of the Year for B Corp International, which is quite cool. So we got a cool little trophy in our office.
Before we get back to the episode, I want to invite you to the free Strategic Connections Roundtable, where creatives, consultants, and service-based business owners can meet new business connections without the awkwardness of traditional networking. It's a curated experience where the group fit is curated so that connections and conversations thrive. That means that every month, a Strategic Connections Roundtable will bring together a group of service-based business owners in similar stages of business who can benefit from knowing each other so that you can make connections easier, share what your business offers, discover new resources, and have an opportunity to mastermind a challenge. Save your free seat at audreyjoyquan.com/strategic-connections-roundtable. Above all, I care about genuine connections and authentic relationships in business. If that's you, check out the Roundtable and curated networking experience today. You can get all the details and onto the free invite list over at audreyjoyquan.com/strategic-connections-roundtable, or click on the link in the show notes right there in your podcast app. Back to the show. Darian, I want to switch gears here and ask you about your podcast, Marketing News Canada. Why start a podcast? What's been happening over there? And how does it play a role in Jelly?
Well, Sarah knows this. So many years ago, we also co-owned a conference with Christian Thompson from Marwick Marketing called the Canadian Internet Marketing Conference. And we would do it in a train station in Squamish. And hundreds of people would come to this event. And a guy I knew wanted to come to the event and said, hey, can I get a free pass? And people always ask, can I get a free pass? I'd love a free pass. Because I co-owned it, I couldn't just start giving away passes. So I said to him, why don't you apply as media, like press? And do something cool, do like a blog or something about the show. And he says, all right, sounds great. So he came up and he worked for this amazing charity in East Van. And I saw him and I'd see him once. I was like, hey, we'd say hi to each other. And at the end of the conference, and I think it was like a week later, he's like, Darian, guess what I did? I started a podcast for you. And so I think even then it had different, I think it was called like a Jelly podcast or something. But what he had done was he had just hung out backstage with a really great audio recorder. So if you go back in the archives of Marketing News Canada, the first 2 episodes are a bunch of micro interviews with like Fab Dolan from Google and all these incredible speakers from all over. I think it's like 24 interviews on their first 2 episodes, and he just gifted it to us. And then after that, he kept it. He's like, hey, I can keep this going for you. So we're able to hire him and kind of, subsidize, support him financially because he wasn't getting paid great at this charity. And so we kept paying him to do it. And then eventually he got a new job and we hired someone in-house that had some broadcast background, Shahid. He said, hey, let's do video and audio at the same time. So we went into this new stage where it was audio and video. And then over time, we realized not many people were consuming long form educational content over video. So we've just been focusing solely on audio, and we're in our 5th year now. Recently moved from Anchor hosting over to Red Circle so we could do that dynamic ad insertions, thanks to Canada Post, who came on board a couple years ago as our sponsor. This episode brought to you by Canada Post, Insight Magazine. Make sure you subscribe. We've had other sponsored episodes like Hootsuite. Ahrefs came on and sponsored for a few months. So it's been really cool, actually, and some great guests. And I think, as COVID's been hard on everyone, one of the people in particular has been speakers and authors, because they haven't been able to go into these all conferences. But the benefit has been they're available to come on a podcast that is maybe not something they would normally do. And so we're able to have on Guy Kawasaki, who was the CMO of Apple. We had on Seth Godin, who wrote a few books about marketing, and just some really great guests who are like, I guess I'll come on your show. got nothing better to do today.
I love having a podcast because of the relationships that are built and the connections that are made. For you and for Jelly, has the podcast translated into a marketing channel?
No, absolutely not. I think reality is I've never, when I took it back, like when it's transitioned from Rod over to Shahid and I, when we were doing it, I just brought on people I thought were fascinating and I was just curious about. So I never, like, I know there's people that are like, have a podcast and then you could like bring them on and then sell them something, or bring them on and they could become your client. I just genuinely brought people on because I thought they were cool. And I never figured out that whole agenda in the guesting. So I just, most of the guests we brought on would never hire Jelly, or, the size of who they are, would like Lego or Starbucks, would never engage Jelly at that level of the size they are. And so very useless for Jelly in many ways. So the fact that I can still do it, I think is only thanks to Canada Post, who finally actually allowed us to monetize it. And I think we were almost close. Remember, Sarah? I think we were almost close to shutting it down at one point because it was such like the ego project, as we called it internally.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't been financially productive for Jelly.
No, but it's a passion project for you, Darian, and it's something that I think the team really loves seeing you do as well.
I don't know. It's work, and then it's also, I think I have seen this. It is my own. So again, it's my own personal professional development is how I actually see it. It's like the only way, like if, the benefit for me is like, I've had these incredible opportunities to learn from a lot of really, really smart people. We had Snap on recently, the head of creative for Reddit. We had on like the head of Canada for TikTok, who randomly also happened to be the first employee for MySpace Canada and the first employee for MySpace Canada, then Facebook Canada, and now TikTok Canada. So he's this incredible, brilliant mind that I've learned from. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it. And then we learned that the Canadian government has this heritage fund, which goes to all those beautiful commercials we saw as kids that were like, this moment is brought to you by Heritage Canada. And they support publications, but they don't support podcasts. And so we started taking our podcasts, the audio recordings, and putting them into articles. And then we launched Marketing News Canada, the news site, with hopes of seeing what it looks like to partner up with Heritage Canada to produce more great Canadian content about our industry, and then also fill it with more, I feel like more diversified voices, and that often aren't kind of lifted up on other marketing publications.
I don't think that podcasts are great lead generators. I do think that they are great for nurturing the people that we currently serve and providing value to them. So if you think of your current client base, have they come to you and said, wow, that episode was amazing, or I've gotten so much value from hearing you talk to Seth Godin? Seth Godin's a big name in marketing.
Yeah, I've heard like nice people are nice. But I also question, like, do you actually listen to it? I don't know. I think people are just being nice and polite, to be honest. Like I was in a meeting the other day and it's like, oh man, you got that podcast. So great. Love your podcast. Part of me is almost like, are you just saying that because you're nice? I do like, or sometimes I'll get like but I think this is very, like those cold emails. Some people will do a bit of research. Like, I listened to your episode with da-da-da-da-da, and I heard this in it. I would like to now sell you this product. And so some people use it as like a jumping off point, but I don't know. The show has been interesting. I'm learning a lot from it. And even at one point, because we also did that video, one of our seasons got picked up by Amazon Prime, which was super hilarious in that way. So if you're in America or the UK, you can like watch the TV version of our podcast.
See, I feel like you're underplaying your podcast because you just said a whole bunch of things, like the amazing guests that you've had on, the fact that it got picked up at Amazon Prime, and that you've had these amazing sponsorships. So I'm going to give you credit where credit is due.
That's Darian for you. He's the most humble person ever.
But I will say this. And I'm saying this to Chris. We were talking about this recently, our producer, and I was like, hey, I think there's two guests I cannot get. There are two. So MailChimp is being slippery, and Squarespace. I can't get those.
And don't forget,
Sarah wants Simon Sinek. So we got like we got Simon's second, like the guy who runs Simon Sinek Industries for Canada, which was great. And he was very inspiring. But yeah, Sarah would like Simon Sinek, and I still want someone from Squarespace and someone from MailChimp. Those are like I think if I can get those two brands on the show, I think I'll be good. But I think that's what keeps me going is like, and Pinterest keeps delaying because they're like, we're about to open a Canada office. Wait till we open a Canada office. But a part of me is like, I like the chase still of like being told no. Because I think, and maybe that's bad, but part of me is like, I love being told no because I'm like, or getting ghosted because I'm like, no, I'm going to somehow find a way. I'm going to find a way that you're going to be like, I want to be on your show. But
I think it's a matter of time. You sound very persuasive and also relentless in terms of wanting to get these guests on.
I know.
Before we wrap up here, I have one question for the both of you. We know that when you grow a team, it pushes you to learn a lot of things about yourself as an individual. What would you share with other leaders as one of the most important things you've learned along the way to growing your team?
I'd say for me, it's advocating and being very open to feedback for or about yourself. So I love asking our team members how I can support them better and how I can do something differently to help make their jobs a little bit easier for them day to day. I always find it so interesting when business owners or entrepreneurs say that they're not open to feedback from team members, because it's, we have annual reviews with our team members and we give them their strengths and their areas for opportunity. And we expect them as our employees to show growth year over year in those areas. And so I think if we're not able to look internally and say, leadership is not just something that you can just check off as a skill because someone gave you an endorsement for it on LinkedIn or whatever. It's something that is, you have to continually work on and grow. So I think just being open and excited to receive feedback from your team is crucial.
Darian?
Oh man, I feel like I learn something every day. Mm-hmm. It's so hard. There's so many things, whether it's, I learn how impatient I am. I learn, I don't know, maybe something, I think it is. It's like any relationship, right? They put a mirror up against you and, in front of you, and you see all the parts of you that, you do want to change and develop and grow. But I think my impatience, and I think I've learned partly like how impatience and trying to be fast can hurt, others. And I think we, like, especially when we were a smaller agency, we were much like a speedboat, right? Small and quick. We can do nimble. And in a speedboat, you can do quick turns, right? And you can quickly navigate on a lake. But as we got bigger, right? Like more like a bigger boat and maybe, like a big party boat, you could call it. And as you're navigating the lake, if you do want to turn one way, it takes more people involved. You have to tell the person in the engine room, you got to switch that thing off. You got to move over here. People have to be ready to do it. And if you try to yank a bigger boat one way, it damages the boat. People get scared on the boat. People can fall off. And so I think if anything, I think it's a daily discipline for me of remembering that, hey, we're not a speedboat anymore. Sometimes patience is the key to ensuring that people are respected and appreciated and loved and treated well in this process and in this journey. And I think sometimes even just waiting often is a better result in the end versus just being quick. Because I think for so long we had to be quick to get to market and be the first there and the quickest there. But I think now it's almost better for us to be better quality versus quickness.
Thank you for sharing that. To wrap up, what keeps you both inspired and at your best?
Yeah, one thing I've really learned about myself is, and something I'm definitely not shy to say, is I think I perform at my best when I give myself the grace to have a little bit of downtime too. I think it's so, so important, especially, I'm outside of work, I'm also a mom. So being able to take a break and do a little bit of self-care, whether it's have a glass of wine or do a Peloton class in the evening. Darian and I are both really into Peloton. So so just making time for yourself, whether it's 30 minutes a day or an hour on the weekend, whatever you need, make time for yourself. And that's how I've learned to really thrive when I have that downtime incorporated into my life.
Sarah has a life hack where she figured out a way to get like a bike thing. And what have you done? Tell us because it's so cool.
Yeah. So I just have a Schwinn bike. It's a Schwinn spin bike at home. And then I use the Peloton app on my phone. And I now have a Peloton bike basically, because I just use the app. It's my hack.
My hack is I found Peloton was free for 2 months and I started using the outdoor run thing because no bike would fit in I have a very small home here and 4 children. So I've been doing the outdoor runs and I love it. 20 minutes a day, short, quick, but it gets me outside, clears my head. And again, especially with no commute or no driving or downtime as much, it's been a real huge help for sure. There's also this great children's book called You Are Special, which I'm a huge fan of. And it's about this wooden person named Punchinello. And he lives in this world where people give, gray dot stickers and silver star stickers. The great wooden people get star stickers, and those that aren't good wooden people get these gray dot stickers. And he's not a very good wooden person. He's always tripping and fumbling. And when he tries to do a cool jump, he trips again and falls, and he doesn't do a good jump, and he gets a circle, and he falls, gets a circle, and he's sad. And one day he sees this little Weemick walking by. That's the name of these wooden people. And she has no stickers at all. And so he finally finds her and chases her down and says, how do you have no stickers? She goes, well, I go up and I see the wood carver up there on the hill. And so Punchinello was sitting in his bed and thinking, maybe I should go. I don't know. It seems weird and scary. But the next day he finally ventures out and goes up and climbs the hill. And as he opens this massive door and opens it up, the wood carver is like, Punchinello, it's so good to see you. Come up here. Come sit up here. And Punchinello's like, how do you know me? Like, what is this? And the woodcarver picks him up, puts him on his little table. He goes, how do you know me? And he says, well, I made you. He goes, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I got these stickers all over me. I'm not very good at anything. He goes, no, none of that's true. He goes, I never make mistakes. You're amazing. He goes, you are special. And he goes, oh, I don't know. I don't think so. No one thinks that about me. And the woodcarver goes, well, why don't you come up every day? Come up, just visit, and I'll just remind you. And so he puts Punchinello back down on the ground, and as he's walking away, he goes, really, you want to see me? He goes, come tomorrow, every day. I'd love to see you. And as Punchinello's leaving out the door, one of his little gray dot stickers falls off. And it's just this beautiful children's story, meant for children, but great for as any entrepreneur and anyone in business and in the creative field, where I think the stories of this world and the feedback from this world and reviews in this world, in this cancel culture we're in, I think trying to come up with like unique ideas and being creative and being refreshing and trying to find refreshment for yourself, it's being able to find that wood carver in your life, right? That moment in your life that you remember who you truly are, outside of whether people give you stars or whether people give you circles, whether it's good or bad. It's being able to find that voice in your life that says, hey, this is who you truly are. No matter what the world says, this is who you are as a person. This is where your value comes from. And, I think that's when you can find that voice and find that anchor. It allows you to, do anything and be anything and forge through all those hard things.
Amen to that. Darren, I'm going to include the link to that book in our show notes. And if you guys can share, where can the listeners find you?
At Jelly Marketing on all things social. You can find us there.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for listening to the Small But Mighty Agency podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me. Or send a screenshot on Instagram while tagging me at Audrey Joy Kwan.